Testing 1, 2, 3. Test, test, test. Thank you, much appreciated. I have decided to start a little bit later, not the 10-minute countdown. Instead, it's going to be like 3 minutes going forward. Um, and this is mainly to accommodate to our short form viewers who let's just say this helps them stay captivated. Hey Morgrim, how you doing? Welcome, welcome. How's everyone doing today? Hope you're having a rad, fantabulistic day. Y'all are killing me. Well, I'm glad the audio's coming through. You know what? Let's start a little bit early. Because why not? You celebrated too hard last night? What was your celebration? I had a few brewskis myself last night. I don't know why, I just felt like having a few. Anyway, welcome back everyone. My name is Mac. I am the community manager for Dungeon Alchemist. Dungeon Alchemist is the amazing map making program you see in front of you. It is available on Steam, and it happens to be 20% off right now. I just want to let you know that we also have a demo available for the first time ever, so you can try Dungeon Alchemist out before you buy. Give it a little test drive on your system, see how it runs, and ultimately decide if you want to purchase it at the amazing 20% off discount. Welcome back, one and all, to Mapmaker Monday. Every Monday we host a map making stream where I build a map in real time for you to follow along and watch and learn. I have over 2,000 hours. Oh, fantastic. Oh, that's awesome. Hope you had a lot of fun, Remy. I have over 2,000 hours of map making with Dungeon Alchemist, and I love to share that experience with you and give you guidance on your map making journey. Throughout the stream, if you have any questions, need guidance or support, have any feedback or suggestions, or just want to chat and get to know other amazing map makers in our community, feel free to let us know on the various platforms we're monitoring at this time, and we will do our best to answer your questions and guide you. During these streams, they're kind of an AMA format, so just keep that in mind. If you need any assistance, we're here to help you. Uh-oh, what happened to the bed? Disappeared. There was a bed here, I know it. Anyway, let's fix that up. Shoot, sweet. looks pretty good. Got to change the canopy, which I think it was this one. But let's just take a look through this. That one. Yeah, Steam is great today. That's fantastic, isn't it? I'm actually monitoring that right now. Really great when the Steam feed goes through right away. Sometimes it takes 10-20 minutes for it to. Seisu, how you doing today, buddy? In fact, how's everyone doing today? I hope you had an amazing weekend. If you got any gameplay with your players, let's hear about it. I'd love to hear how your sessions went. If you only got any session prep in or anything like that, let's talk about it. That being said, during Mapmaker Monday, I'm focused on the build, but if you have any questions or concerns about your own builds, I'm more than willing to stop what I'm doing and assist you. So Remy, how was Pride? The last night in general was probably quite spectacular, I'd imagine. Okay, so we got a few YouTube. Cedric says, oh my gosh, did you just lift an entire flower? I'm assuming you meant floor. What did you use to build layers? So, in Dungeon Alchemist, pretty much for like almost a year now, you could build multi-level by hand. But you need to do it kind of like Lego or blocks. You got to stack things up, okay? So how you do that, you can't do it with the traditional rooms. The AI room types only support one floor. That's their flaw at this time. Granted, we now have round rooms, diagonal rooms, all sorts of stuff. You can make all sorts of crazy shapes now. But if you want multiple levels, you have to do it by hand. And how you do that is by using objects. The objects in Dungeon Alchemist, there's many of them that are just like interior objects. But if you go to this tab here, it says structural. This entire section is stuff that can be used for building. There are thousands of structural objects. I kid you not. The round constructions is where I got my start here. I grabbed one of these to make a floor. I use these for the walls. We have a few basic, limited structural objects. Excuse me. Coffee's going right through me. These snap together like Lego, and they also snap to the grid. So you can use that to your advantage. To that end, I have also used a couple other tools in tandem to get this kind of multi-level effect. So you notice this little height and arrow there. When you disable collisions in Dungeon Alchemist, not only does it allow you to like merge objects together, which would normally not be able to be done. You would get these red little chevrons on the outside saying, no, you can't do that. But when you disable collisions, now you can move objects together, but you also unlock a few secondary behaviors. The first is you can raise and lower objects up and down. So to give you an example. And what I have done here is carefully crafted everything on this level, on this floor platform, so it's kind of like one floor. And it actually saves me quite a bit of headache when I'm moving it around or pulling it apart because it's one piece. So I did a little bit of preemptive building, if you will, to kind of stage this. And each level, save a couple parts on each, are pull-aparts. So I just gotta fix the dividers. But each level is a pull-apart floor, and they're all navigable with a first-person token. Now, that wasn't something that just immediately happened. It took quite a bit of, detail and timing and precision. So I hope that answers your question there, Cedric. Essentially, what I've done is stack everything kind of like Lego or blocks, and they're all on top of each other, where I can navigate them in first person if I want to, or I can pull off an entire floor and delete it and then look around through the other floor. Okay, so Dungeon Master Seth says the software saved me tons of time and I'm having fun building maps into Descent of Avernus campaign. That sounds awesome, Dungeon Master Chef. I hope your players are enjoying it. Good. Got some time for the stream today, Seisu says. So Seisu, I see you've been busy lately. What you been up to, my friend? Anything cool? 2-ton 20. Okay, are you a Venture Brothers fan? 2-ton 21. I gotta ask you that because that is a very specific name. I hope they're still watching. 5-hour session on the homebrew yesterday. Second consecutive session of a boss fight that is now bleeding into an upcoming third set. That sounds insane. I hope that sounds really cool. You got to tell me more about that. That's really cool. 2-ton 21 is a very specific Venture Brothers reference. So that's 2-ton 21. My family loves that show. We're big Venture Brothers fans in this house. Big fan of the movie as well. Cedric, it helped. I'm glad to hear. Okay, so Dungeon Master said, damn good session tonight. I built a scrolling chase scene. That sounds so cool. Is that map on the workshop? I'd love to take a look at it. 21. Gotta love that. That scene kills me too. 24 was killed in a car. Intentional. Gotta love it. Anyway, moving on. Back to the build. I think I want to address these little dealies really quickly. I'm going to get some new of these and resize them because I don't like how sunk in. I want them on the floor below them. Is this not with anything? It's quite impressive. There we go. So the plan is just shrink it just a little bit. And it'll like that. It's still in the tub there. That's too funny. Too funny seeing another adventure-roo in the chat. I loved Hanna-Barbera cartoons growing up, like all of them. And they weren't even like new when I was a kid. They were like reruns for the most part. So, I don't know. I maybe have been like in that outlier group that loved them. Like, I know that like Cartoon Network and like Boomerang played that stuff non-stop at certain slots of the day. I really enjoyed Scooby-Doo and Josie and the Pussycats and like all sorts of old shows. I really enjoyed Johnny Quest as a kid. Like, I thought those shows were great. Top Cat, right? Where is the escape room? That's a good question, Dungeon Master. So, on the first floor, let me just save it. If I pull this apart, so you notice how this is all part of that now? There is a hatch, which I was going to kind of cover up a little bit to make less obvious. But that hatch leads to a secret tunnel. Oops, clicking the wrong part. Secret tunnel. Banana splits? Yes, I remember banana. Holy cow. Wow, you wrote a fan letter to the Herculoids? He didn't write them a fan letter. He was writing them to call them hippies for protesting Vietnam. Oh my gosh, Venture Brothers is too good. It actually plays far too often in my show, in my house, 2 Ton 21. Like, it's on quite a bit, actually. Randomly, we'll just put it on when we need a filler show. You know what I mean? Johnny Quest is definitely the inspiration. No, I just undid something I shouldn't have. Get over here, you loser. I deleted that on accident. Self. Okay. I'm gonna move this back, and then we're gonna get to work on this. Alberto, right? I'm assuming you're a Futurama fan, or you just love the meme. Either way, welcome, welcome. And if you have any questions about Dungeon Alchemist, feel free to let me know. But for anyone wondering, it's a map maker that is in 3D, so you can build intricate maps at all sorts of levels and details and angles, and then export for top-down for your tabletop RPG of choice, primarily in a fantasy setting. That being said, Dungeon Alchemist can make maps into a steampunk or an early western type setting as well. And we plan to offer optional expansions that go above and beyond what we promised in our Kickstarter expansion and roadmap through our stretch goals in Kickstarter. And basically, those expansions would cover aesthetics like cyberpunk, sci-fi, things like that. They'd go far past what we promised in our Kickstarter and would be once we leave early access and have delivered on all our Kickstarter promises. These would be optional expansions that would be a paid expansion. So think of something like $20, $30 for, several thousand assets, a couple dozen environmental biomes, and probably 40, 50 room types, all within, say, cyberpunk or sci-fi. And that would be additional to this, and it works within the Dungeon Alchemist ecosystem. Go Team Venture for sure. It is. It's. There's too few fans nowadays, but it is nice to meet another fan. Harvey Birdman or Space Ghost. All good stuff. C Lab. All those shows. I was really glad that Venture Brothers got a movie to at least get some conclusion. Oh, hey, Draconic King, thank you for the follow on Twitch. Welcome to the Damn Fam, much appreciated. So, we are working on this top floor, which will be the observatory, and the fourth and final floor of this epic multi-story wizard tower. I'm kind of trying to decide what would be in this room. We have a desk, a large telescope, the star catcher scope, which is this cool thing that we could put a star chart in and it'll kind of show it in that projection. That little swirly there, the spiral, is something we put in the image there. So I plan to change it eventually. These blackboards will have like star charts or formulas on them as well. Now, I kind of want to put a few other things in this room before I put the roof on. Does anyone have any suggestions? So, Alberto, I will say this. Unfortunately, we have no influence over Foundry's pricing. But I do know that the devs, after influence and feedback from our community members, just adjusted our pricing for Dungeon Alchemist in South America regions to be more reflective of your currency and what's going on in your region. So essentially, it was brought to our attention that it was like the cost of a month's rent by Dungeon Alchemist in some South American countries. That's ridiculous. So we made adjustments, and this was all due in part because they adjusted the currency to not be local there, but to be US on Steam. So my understanding is we made adjustments to better, accommodate and reflect that, which I feel is a good move. Honestly, no one should have to pay a month's rent to use a copy of Dungeon Alchemist. That's ridiculous. What was your old Mapmaker 2-ton 21? I gotta ask what you were using before. So you remaking a lot of your old maps. Are they 5e maps? Are they different? Which setting are they in? I mean, DA can kind of be played within as its own VTT, especially if you're playing on a TV locally, Alberto. Like, if you're playing locally in person, you could just disable the user interface, right? And turn on the grid. Oh, you know what? I should have turned on the grid first. And then hide the user interface. And you could just cast this to a TV live, right? And put tokens on top of the TV or inside DA. And it would allow your players to navigate the space and play within that space, and you could just manage your roles and rules and everything in person, which is likely the case that you do already. Seems like you don't even need a virtual tabletop if you're playing in person. Dungeon Alchemist should be on sale through the 11th, so make sure you take advantage of that sale while you can. For anyone wondering, you can turn the grid on and off through the settings panel. There's a grid setting. You can disable or enable the grid, change the color. You can change it between square and hex. The hex has sizes, but the grid, the square one, doesn't, so I'm not sure why that is the case, but at least you can make these adjustments to the hex grid. You can adjust the transparency as well. I personally like using the grid when I'm building, but when I export, I do not use it because I use a virtual tabletop when I play. And virtual tabletops all have grid control within them that's far superior to ours. And the maps and the grids match up perfectly if you export without it and just use it in, say, Foundry at 5 feet, Fantasy Grounds 5 feet, etc. Works great. Yeah, VTT is ideal for online play. I mean, it's okay. It does enhance in-person play, But if you don't mind managing your rolls with traditional dice and doing your tokens with traditional like tokens, or managing all your rules by, you know, by memory or by having a book on hand, then there's no need to use a virtual tabletop software. Oh, you know what, Two-Tongue? I've got a really good tip for you that you might use doing northern icy maps. So it's kind of unknown. There are some rocks in Dungeon Alchemist, right? That's known. A lot of people know that. But the sandstone rocks have this very unique property out of all the rocks. They have the option to swap the coloring on them, and you can actually make them white. So they're perfect for snow environments. And there's a ton of different sandstone rocks, so you can put them in a snowy environment and they fit in chef's kiss. Like, amazing. Oh, I guess that one doesn't have it. For the most part, a lot of them do, or at least I thought a lot of them did. Check this one. Yep, that one does. These work great in a snowy environment if you need like some rocky, craggy hills or something like that. It is getting tall. I needed suggestions for this top level so we can... A display case with space rocks. I like that, actually, Remy. That's great. Let's put a display... Let's do this pedestal here. Oh, that one doesn't have... I feel like we have a pedestal, like a dome cover. Yes. Okay, a domed pedestal. Let's do one of these. These will look really cool. That one. Oops. Wrong side. We could put some moon rocks in there. What do you think, Remy? Is that pretty cool? They could be like all around, like little space treasures. It could. It could potentially, Alberto. So on the workshop where I got some of the flooring for this, like the floors in between a lot of this, the wood floor, is actually acquired from this section here under Steam Workshop. Everyone has access to this. If you want a copy of Dungeon Alchemist, you can do this. So you click this and notice it says Browse Collections. There are collections of assets that creators put together to save you time to download all of them instead of hunting and finding them separately. So there are some tower building assets that have balconies and stuff. So I could technically use one of these if I wanted to, but I'm actually going to do a roof that has a slat cut out of it for the telescope on the top, which is going to be the kind of like final piece on like the I don't know, the icing on the cake, if you will. So I didn't really want any exterior access points because I felt like this was this person's fortress of solitude. It's their respite, if you will, to get away from the world. It's in the middle of the woods, away from everything. If anything, they teleport here or fly here. They may invite guests casually, like trusted friends or allies. So ultimately, you could, use these to make your own tower, and I've used quite a bit. I use this piece, I use this piece, I use this piece, I use this piece. I use some of these little banisters. I used a lot of them in my tower, but I didn't want to use these walls because I already liked these walls, and I was already up a few floors before I decided. So with that in mind, I have a rooftop that I'm going to import later, and we'll all kind of learn how to import an asset together if you're interested in learning that. It's actually a really cool feature that anyone with a copy of Dungeon Alchemist can do. So you can import 3D models into your local copy of Dungeon Alchemist to use in your builds, or you can even share them on Steam Workshop so others can use them. And you can download assets from the workshop, as I just showed you. Additionally, you have access to maps on the workshop. So there's close to 9,000 maps, well, 8,900, let's say 8,864, and over 4,500 3D models, in addition to what's already in Dungeon Alchemist. Yeah, it is kind of Orthankish, if you will. You know, it's more like I don't know. I didn't really want it to be like have a lot of external access points. To me, it's like a defensive point in the middle of the forest where this wizard goes to get away. And if someone did come, it would be very defensible structure, and he has an escape route because he's so like preemptive and has thought this out. Does that make sense? Like I said, here we've got a secret tunnel on the backside here that links up to. Oops, what just happened there? Oh, I guess I'll just pull it apart from one floor at a time. That links to this hatch. Hey, Swedish Cook. We were just talking about your assets, brother. How you doing? So Swedish Cook made a lot of these floors that you see in between each level. The walls on this were stock DA, but the floors were something he made and shared. Paranoid? Yeah, I guess so. You don't get to an L20 wizard without being a little paranoid, right? So I'm thinking for like rocks, moon rocks, we should go to nature, back to the stone right here. And there are all sorts of cool stones that could kind of fill in for like moon rocks. Or like different planetary rocks. These are kind of, but as collisions are disabled, we can shrink them down to the side there. That being said, kind of like the idea of some sandstone. Right? A little bit big. And then we can make these white so they seem like moon rocks. Isn't that cool? I don't know. I think that's pretty neat. Hey nerd, how you doing? Welcome, welcome. like a fireman's pole, Alberto, right? I think a tentacle on here, like a one of those like this, and we just shrink it down. Oh, a creature in a jar. This. That looked cool. Trying to think of what other things will be in this display case. These are specimens from space that this wizard has recovered. Honestly, ultimately, this is the observatory level of the wizard tower, which is the top level. And there will be a roof with like a slatted piece where this telescope can peek through. Each level is different. So this one is their room. Kind of their chill space, right? Got a bath here with a rubber duck and even a place to read and eat. Place to store their treasures and some of their best gear, if you will. Then if you go down another level, this is their workshop. So we've got a little alchemy bench where they make their various potions and different stuff like that. Then on the bottom floor is... what's that? Fuse. It's just floating in the middle of nowhere. I'm gonna delete that. But as you can see, each floor is kind of different in its own regard. So down here we have a kitchen, kind of a storeroom, the entry area. Are you talking about football? Swedish cook? Metalloid Man, thank you so much for the follow. Any relation to the Metalloid Maniac? Okay, we need to add a few different things to this level. That would be kind of like space, eldritch type stuff. So I'm open to suggestions. I guess I could put this eye. Oh, it's so large. Shrink it down. A globe. Someone wants me to put up a crystal ball, I can tell. Or do you mean an actual globe? You know, do we actually have a globe? I don't think we do. Let's look on the workshop. Yes. One of these could be great. Something like this could work. I'll download that. Pretty small. We do have the star catcher chart here too, so or the little like scope that moves around, and we're gonna put a star chart in this little graphic. Should we put an Eliza in here? Hmm. Hmm. I think one next to this is a good idea. Like in this area here, right? But on that makes no sense. Like this is like a display case of things that have been found. Dragon egg could work. We got dragon eggs. Let's see. Let's do a lava. Trying to think of anything else we. one more little treasure over there. And these look pretty cool and could fit there. A little mana battery crystal type thing. What's this little thing? It's a skeleton key. It just looks like something from Grayskull, which is also in space. You in all sorts of fantasy space here, okay? Work with me. We got like Cthulhu, 40k, little bit of everything here. Okay. Now let's save, just to make sure everything's good. And I want to import an asset. So we've got some kind of living creature there and something in that containment jar. A couple of kind of like eldritch horrors, if you will. No, we don't have anything like that, unfortunately. That would probably be the closest thing, and it's the opposite. Excuse me. I was thinking of putting a couple of these coils up in here to give it kind of like a sci-fi vibe. Oh, thank you, Osmodeus. Catford. The one thing I can tell you for right now, MindPad, is if you put everything on one larger object below it, like a carpet or like in this case a floor, they all move together. That's one way you can kind of do that at the moment, and I've taken advantage of that all throughout this build to essentially give myself a way to quickly pull apart the various aspects of this build with relative ease and without giving myself a headache. Notice they also snap. When I hold control, they're snapping all over the place. I built everything on this build on a snap point for that reason. So if I get lost, I can always snap it right back. I think the death ray would... I know we have a death ray. Or is it like a, what does the professor call it? Tell me how to live my life. Doomsday device. There we go. That's his collection of doomsday devices. Keeps it next to his drawer of assorted wire. Okay. I think it's time to import the ceiling. I don't want to put a rug under all this. You notice the mishap there. Why we're hiding it with the telescope. Creative building. Saving again. So I'm going to go to the asset importer located here under the Steam Workshop tab. New season of Futurama is actually dropping at the end of the month. I'm bummed. Last year it dropped on my birthday. This year it doesn't drop on my birthday. I felt really special because Futurama came back on my birthday. Okay, so this lovely roof made by the very talented Mrs. Mac is essentially designed to be a roof with an access port for a observatory, telescope. And then if you notice, there's also a cool weather vane at the top with a wire attached running down. This wire has a little spot on the inside right there where I'm going to put a little switch. So ultimately, we've kind of thought out all the electricity. The roof looks really good, doesn't it? I think Mrs. Mac is getting really, really good at 3D modeling, and she doesn't like to admit it, but I think this is all made from scratch. I think it's really good. Or just for powering random things. We'll call it a conical roof, right? Is that right? Conical roof? Is that correct? I feel like I'm... Hey, Mouse, how you do? Maphis, how you doing? Thank you for the rose. Sorry I didn't notice you were talking there. Maphis, are you still there? I apologize. I just was busy and I didn't look over at TikTok for a moment. I appreciate the rose, by the way. Much appreciated. You don't have to send that kind of stuff to our channel. This is the official Dungeon Alchemist channel, so things like that aren't required, but always thankful for it. We always pay it back to the community. The settlers? Okay. It seems like it would be kind of in something like an old, like English setting. So, Maphis, forever, to do multi-level, it's a little bit of clever workarounds within the current Dungeon Alchemist systems. So, objects can be stacked on top of each other. And what I've done is build a building of entirely of object. And each of those levels is just an object floor, an object stacked on the floor, object walls. To be honest with you, Eduardo, I use the vertical slider a little bit too. Let me finish importing this asset, everyone, and I'll answer all the questions about multi-level when we get back into the build, okay? Sound good? So what I'm doing when you import a custom asset, you want to give it a name, and you want to space out the name so the search terms are all individual terms. This name, all of these keywords, the description you give it later on, all of these things end up being search terms for it on the workshop. This asset, oh, I did typo that. Thank you for that. Thank you for the fix. My wife made this. The lovely Mrs. Mac made this for me. So it's very custom. I like that right there, that angle. So I'm going to keep it not random. I don't want a random rotation or a random size. I don't want it to float on the water. The tile coverage is set. Even if I move it into another square, it's never going to be, like, ideal here. I want it in between this set of squares, right? So it'll snap in the middle of that grouping to the center tile, ideally. Right? Now, got a name, got some keywords. Where would I put this? What location would this be in the object panel? Structural, right? Round construction makes sense. So I'll put it there. We don't really have a roof section, but we do have constructions. We do have, this would be tile, so maybe put it under stone construction, right? So I could put it under a few different areas where people might find it or stumble upon it if they download. Now I'm going to save this, right? And there's a few other behaviors you want to change. This collider is definitely not ideal for this shape. It is square. I don't want to use a square collider with a round structure. So I'm going to pick a round collider, but instead of just a solid ring, sorry, I don't want it to be like a solid cylinder, or sorry, I want it to have like a hole in the middle. So this ring is the ideal collider. Instead of it being a solid cylinder, it is now much smaller, if you will. Now this shape can be raised up and down, right? And if you look at it from the side, much easier to tell where it matches. What I'm doing now is I'm essentially telling Dungeon Alchemist the kind of rough shape of this object, giving it an invisible wall so other objects can interact with it, move around it, etc. What am I grabbing here? Let's see here. So essentially, I'm just trying to get a ring that lightly fits to the edge of the tower, right? That gives it some footing, some foundational surface. I could put a different one on this, a different collider. There are cylinder colliders. They're more like a disc, right? So if you look at this from the side, this eats up the entire space. I don't want this to be a solid shape in DA. I want it to be hollow. And since we don't have a cone collider, I'm going to use the cylinder and just kind of hope for the best. Now, one other thing I could do is put a cylinder at the top. Well, this is part of the map. I'm importing it to the map. So I could put a cylinder at the top of this shape, right? So it's kind of like a cap or like a lid on this entire collider, if you will. And the purpose of this is so I could place objects on top of it easier. Like, yeah, it kind of is like a pipe, essentially, at this point. Now, if you look at it from the, the various angles, the colliders wrap all the way around the shape. Ideally, you'd want it to fit the shape perfectly, but this isn't going to work with this very unique shape. So I'm going to take what I can get here. I'm doing great. How about yourself? A lid allows you to stack things on top of it, or it just acts like a solid piece. I'm noticing just the littlest bit of this isn't outside of it. So that's like a very nice little match. I really like this. I'm very happy with it. Gonna look at it from the front. Gonna look at it from, whatever, the various angles. Colliders are essentially invisible walls that tell the application how much space this asset actually takes up and how things should interact with it. So I want the underside of it to be visible from the inside, and I don't want it to have like any invisible walls that would block things. So essentially where I've set it up is an ideal space. Now, I'm going to save this asset and I'm going to try it locally before I upload it to the workshop. Now that it's saved as a local asset, right? I can go back into DA. I guess technically we never left. We were just in a tool. Whoa, what happened to that bee? The junk. Civ. It's insane. The bee was out for some vengeance. So, Caillou, a lot of people requested that when we polled our community for Fun with Objects, and I added it to the list, and the devs said it would be really hard to effectively do that for every token. They may add it to, like, one token, like a headlamp or something, or maybe a headlamp option. Like, I personally would love if we had, like, a flashlight or a torch option for every token. But it's not really easy within the system we have within DA. Yeah, they have some weirdness to them. They oversize, undersize without your permission. And I think it's because they have the multiple permissions state. There's a bug still that causes them to oversize. No pun intended. Anyway, let's try putting this roof on here, shall we? Already loving this. Just gotta line it up. Oops. See. Oh, why isn't the collider? Where is it? No. Okay, there it is. It ended up being huge. Yeah, we could put it on like a little pedestal, but it's kind of already on one. Keep trying to find the collider for this. Just move it to the side. Okay, so it's on a massive pedestal already. If I shrink the roof any shorter, it won't fit over this circle. Luckily, I know the person who created it, so I can just have her fill in some of these tiles here and leave it to like just 4. That being said, I want to take a look inside really quick with the token just to see what it looks like. Oh man, it's almost a perfect fit. Look, there's just like a little overlap right there. Ah, look at that though. That looks so cool. I want to put a little flip toggle switch there. The inside looks pretty good. It's kind of less detailed, I'm noticing, but kind of have to go for that when you're decimating and trying to make things smaller and like less file size. I'm gonna make it bigger but drop it down. So it's like settled on the edge better, but it's like more room for the thing. I think it kind of looks better that way, I'm not gonna lie. It looks very good for her making it based on approximation from my guesstimations of how well it would work. So we just need to make some subtle adjustments and it'll be good. Okay, let's talk about multi-level, okay? Because we're here looking at it, let's talk about it. What is the switch called? I know we have one. It's under engineering, most likely. So we have something, and it's like a switch that goes on the wall, right? Toggle. No. Switch. No. Lever. Yes. There we go. Found it. Is that not snapping to that? Oh. Which one looks better? That one looks. Aye. Lever! Pull the lever! The other lever! Okay, really quickly. So with multiple level, it's very important that you kind of have an order of operations. So what I have done here is I have delicately stacked all of these floors atop of each other. Each floor, all the objects on that floor are kind of contained to that floor. And if you have every object on top of a larger object, you can move them as one solid piece. So I'm going to pull apart floor 4. We'll go to floor 3, floor 2. Each of these, unique in their own way, different decorations, whatnot, and a lot of these objects are stock in DA. Some of them are available on the workshop. So if you go to the Steam Workshop tab where it says Browse Assets, I went to the Browse Collections section. That rhymes. I'm a poet and I didn't even know it. This lovely collection made by Swedish Cook, if you download it, has all sorts of cool round room stuff. Floor platforms, stairs that are curved, spiral stairs. They all kind of fit to this build. And I worked closely with Swedish Cook to make sure that these actually kind of worked well as we went up each level. And he was kind of making them as I started this build. So it's been kind of a treat to use his stuff and build it up floor by floor. So the bottom floor, really simply put, is a floor piece known as a round platform. This is available under Objects, Structural, Round Constructions. This bad boy right here. That's all that is to start. And then we made sure that each floor and all the things from that floor were stacked on that floor. So this floor moves as one piece. That is the wall right here, these walls. 3 by 3, round wall 3 by 3. I went through, decorated this room, and then started on the next floor. Each floor is stacked atop of the other floor in a way that it will go upward. Now, I was lucky in that these objects, these floors, stacked on top of each other pretty well for the most part. But if you're running into issues where objects don't stack onto each other and you need to kind of refine it, you can disable collisions, and then notice this little number here appears on objects. You can raise objects up and down. So now you can move objects to a custom height and essentially build multiple levels by hand. Does that make sense? So using the ability to raise objects up and down, which is afforded by the collision toggle, which when you disable collision, several behaviors happen. You can merge objects together, you can raise objects up and down, and you can rescale objects pretty much infinitely when that collision toggles off. You can make them really small or really big. Does that make sense? So using that knowledge to my benefit, I've started kind of putting things delicately on top of each other. Now, Dungeon Alchemist also has snapping, right? A snapping is really nice in DA where objects kind of snap to a grid. If you have collisions off, they kind of have no snapping if they're free floating, but if you hold control, you can snap around, and I made sure everything in this build was on a snap point. So I centered everything in this build around a snap point on the bottom and made sure everything on top of it was snapped to that snap point. So it took a little bit more kind of workaround. I mean, yes, they are floors, and no, they're not. I mean, what says they're not floors, realistically? They're objects, yes, but they are floors, for sure. And at the end of the day, if I wanted to use this map for play in top-down, all it would take is me exporting with each of these floors removed and deleted. So we could delete the roof, right? Or just remove it from the scenery. Hopefully I can grab that again. Goodness. This angle, it doesn't seem to be there. Move it to the side. Let's just say we deleted the roof and then wanted to show this top floor, right? We do an export like this. I could file, save as, floor 4, right? File, save as, wizard, tower, escape, 4. Or L4, I guess, for level 4. And each of these is a new level, so I took the care to essentially make sure that when I export, I have a new floor each time. Delete that one, here's floor 3. Delete that one, here's floor 2. So because I made the conscious decision to stack everything on top of each other and have each floor have a big object at the bottom where all the objects are atop of it, I can remove them as a solid piece instead of hundreds of pieces, by the way. So that saves me a lot of time. Yes, I am a DM. So I didn't use the AI rooms, I just made rooms by hand. Kind of the old-fashioned way, if you will. If you use the AI floors, yes, you'll be limited to one floor, one room. Now, granted, you can put them at any level now, at any height. You can make them round, diagonal, you can do all sorts of stuff with them. That same arrow that appears here when, you know, this right here, you can do that with the floor plan now before you generate it. Some of you may not have noticed that. It's kind of a new development. Excuse me. By the way, I was making that sound long before there were Minecraft villagers making that sound. I feel like they ripped it off from me. Maphis, I hope that helps. And if you need more guidance, I highly recommend joining our Discord. In our Discord, we have a question forum and a support forum where you can create tickets and get guidance, like all day, every day, either from, you know, really, really excited and eager members that want to share their, you know, their experience and know-how, or moderators or myself and other developers who are willing to assist you. So I host these streams every week, for instance, every Monday. Mapmaker Monday is a live map making stream where I show concepts like this to give people guidance and kind of alert you to the fact it's possible. Like, a lot of people really only focus on the AI aspects of DA and don't really do much by hand. And so my hope is to kind of unchain your mind, if you will, and allow you to understand what's possible with DA. That's why I love showcasing maps on our streams and all the various assets and different tips and tricks and different building methods and things like that. Oh man, Caillou, that sounds very, very intricate. I mean, you could do every level on a platform and you would just build, essentially each map is a separate level. So each map is a separate scene or level. And you would build it all on a round platform that would dwarf the map. So something like this, right? Watch. So I'm going to raise this up over the map. This is just an example. I'm scaling it over the map size, right? And then you would build everything atop of this. But of course, you wouldn't want this high. You would essentially want your terrain to have no trees, no hills, nothing. And you put that disc right over the terrain and build everything right on that. That way, you have as much room to build vertically on that disc. But everything would be object building like I'm doing now, by hand. Hey, see you later, Maphis. Thank you. Jonas ADHD, I did not see your message earlier, but thank you so much. Much appreciated. Oh my goodness. Hey, YouTube, I hope your chat is not frozen. I'm going to refresh the chat. Can someone on YouTube give me a little message real quick to let me know if it's coming through? And Cy Glaive, thank you for the sub on YouTube. Much appreciated. Is everyone enjoying the new update so far? Like all the freedom it affords you in building? Okay, so I like that it's like these are open, right? But I think we need to remove some of this. But one thing I was thinking of that would kind of solve this problem with the leakage possibility here, we could do a force sphere. And then oversize it as kind of like a protection area. Nope, that ain't gonna work. Thought I was clever, but it will not work. So I've actually kind of hit the limitation here, 2 ton. Notice as I'm in top down, the spire is kind of cut off. Our camera has a vertical limit. There is a limit to how high you can build, and you'll see it as you start getting too tall. It literally hit the top of this spire and cut off. So most of the weather vane isn't even present. Unless I'm like way zoomed above it. But when I go to top down, like if it goes to export, the weather vane will not be present, which is kind of a bummer. Luckily, it needs some changes. I don't know the exact vertical limit, 2 ton, but I do. You know, I'm just going to call you 21. Or Gary, probably. Who the heck is Gary Fisher? Let me just try lowering this a little bit. Nope, can't shrink it much. Yeah, that's about, like, it is already surpassing the height. The weather vane is, that's a bummer. But a force wall doesn't slant like that. That's part of the problem. Or, I do like that suggestion. What I'm thinking is I might just tell the Mrs. Mac to drop it down like 4 shingles. So it would get rid of this little gap here, right? And then it would drop this down a little bit and put it in the renderable space of the export. Because it is already too large. Like this gap is too big. I do like the idea of being able to rise it up and look wherever he wants, right? I kind of wanted it to have exterior shutters that were open, kind of like leaved shutters, right? But it was a real struggle for her to try and make some on it, so I just opted for her to just leave it open like this. For now, though, I think it looks really good. Let's make it night. Take a look at it. That's great. Let's put a little token in there. You know what I could do? Like a canopy. Oh man, that looks pretty good. Oh. Other than just these little bit of shingles here. I gotta play with that. But overall, we're pretty good. Ah, that's amazing. I wish I could, like, sit in there and look out. I think it looks pretty reasonable. Hey, Seymour. Oh my gosh, y'all need to see Seymour. He got a haircut. We gave him a haircut, and he is so small now. Give him a nice trim for the summer. What do y'all think of this place? Does it look good or does it look good? Just need some formulas for this. Okay, Gray Matter Gaming. Be honest. What 1 to 10? What do you think of the map as an actual explorable, multi-level round tower that can be exported as separate layers, so it is playable as well? I really want a lever right there. Ah! We're gonna make it work. I'm gonna use every trick in the book to get a lever there. Oh, first things first, we need an abstract wall. We're gonna use an abstract wall down here, right? We're gonna put on collisions, then we're gonna grab a lever. And then we're gonna attach the lever to the wall. This is step 1. Step 2, we take this abstract and kind of just tuck it over here. My wall get ruined? No! Honestly, like when I told the devs I was doing this, they're like, oh, so you're showcasing the round walls? And I'm like, no, I can't showcase the update yet. You told me that. And they're like, so how are you doing it? I'm like, I'm doing it by hand. They're like, why are you doing it by hand? I'm like, because I want to show our community it's possible. And to give them the idea that you can do this now with stuff that's available in the workshop or in DA and make a go of it if you wanted to. You know, there's nothing stopping you at this moment if you wanted to take a crack. Okay, so one thing I'm going to do is I'm going to do a trick to make this invisible. If you insert a blank image into this, you can insert images into these. So I'm going to insert a blank PNG. Anyway, I really just want to, and this was prior to the update launching, I started this build, and was really to just kind of educate the masses of the possibility of a round building, a round tower, a multi-level structure that is all within your wheelhouse if you want to put the time into it, for sure. You know, it's a little bit of effort, don't get me wrong. It's not easy. I put in about an hour or 2 hours a week for, you know, probably 6 weeks or so. No! I don't know why this is snapped off now, and it's driving me insane. I don't know where I lost this one wall. It's on the last bit, so. Ultimately, I didn't intend this for like major encounters. Maybe this is like a place maybe a wizard goes in his downtime for crafting or thinking or whatever, you know? May invite his party members, he may not. He goes here for deep wizard study. You know, we all understand that, right? Dayhawk Silverstar, I appreciate the kind words, you know? To be honest with you, like I try to be uh, let's just say passionate about my work and show my love for map making and tabletop gaming, you know, through these streams and my content creation and whatnot. But ultimately, you know, my thing is I want to make sure these streams are enjoyable for new viewers, old viewers. So we do a little bit of guidance and walk through AMA, but at the same time, we're doing teach out and, you know, showing cool tips that, like, you know, maybe somebody would only know if they've spent hundreds of hours in DA. But I really like this space to be inviting to everyone. And I want everyone to feel like they can come here anytime, you know, ask a question or just hang out and vibe with other map makers. Honestly, I always think there's room for improvement, so I appreciate that, Gray Matter. I do think, you know, electricity is a common thing in, like, even in Faerun. So mastering it or having some kind of thing that would provide it, whether it's, you know, a spell or a battery or a windmill or a water wheel or something, would probably exist in this environment. Now, that being said, a wizard of a certain level probably generating electricity is nothing for them. I do want to make some adjustments to this build. One thing I think is how this tower looks. This is just too large. The gap is too big. I do like how you could see inside, though. It's a nice peel back. But I'm thinking I'm going to ask Mrs. Mac to drop it down like 4 tiles. So it'll just still be like this, but just a little bit shorter. Overall, I think the build is pretty much done, though. Do y'all have any suggestions or feedback to what we can do to make this any different or better? I really like that there's like a crack in the tile there, and you can kind of see in the various little... It's imperfect, you know? Caillou, as I explained in depth earlier, the devs are probably not going to attach a light source to a token anytime soon. But using the principle of putting objects by objects and maybe stacking an object on an object, you could probably do something similar. So in this case, there is really no stackable point for a token, right? But if you imported the token custom, you could set the collision space for it and have a collider say on the hand, where there could be a space to place a light. So if you're importing a custom token, yes, you probably could play with that. I haven't made this asset public, so ultimately I wanted to make sure it's a finalized version of the roof before I made it public. So I would just import another one when Mrs. Mac fixes it. That's how I would do it, Gore. I like that. That looks good. Not the proper final. Final 3. With a published item, there's no way to update a published item at this time. No. So be careful if you're going to import an asset and make it published that it's your final version, or you're going to want to have multiple versions, so like if someone incorporated it into their map, it doesn't accidentally delete it from their map. That, or like we could make it like this tall, something like that. Just get rid of the bottom 4 levels. So it'll still fit, have a big, spot for the telescope, but it's not as tall. There really isn't a way at this time. I'm hoping at some point we'll incorporate, updates to the asset importer to accommodate that, like we can with maps, where you can update a map like you can. It'd be nice to update an asset in a similar way. That, or just offer an STL version that you can just pick the color schemes from the, the color swatches available to STL. And then offer a colored painted version as well. So you could do both, but you want to be careful with it, Junk just happened. I feel STLs give you the most versatility, but then they don't necessarily have like tile sets that look like good roofing. So you would want to, only upload them once you have incorporated the color that you want to settle on, like the tile set. Okay. It just gives the most diversity across the board. Man, this looks great. Let's take a look outside. We'll do a little tour in first person, and then we'll do a tour through the house, and we'll probably wrap it up just a little bit early. That looks so good. Yep. Exactly, Gore. Give your end user as many options as possible. Wait, there's no door? Yeah, we knew that earlier. We started making it. Look at the bees! They look so good. Notice there's no light in the shed. Put a little candle in there. A lantern or something, huh? Could just be a temporary hiccup with the workshop. Happens all the time with me. What if it's just like Eternal Flame, which also has no fire? Honestly, if at any point you're trying to load into Steam and like it's not loading the assets for you, right? First, just restart DA, but make sure you do it from within Steam, not from like a shortcut. Loading it from a shortcut is the most common reason you won't connect to the workshop. Next, after you've done that, you want to, if that doesn't work, go just make sure that you can check the Steam Workshop through your Steam browser in the Steam app itself. So independently, just go check and see if you can browse it there. If you can browse it there, but within DA, restart your computer, see if the problem persists. If it still persists, restart your modem and your router. And if it's still giving you guff after all that, I would just wait a little bit. Sometimes there's just random connection issues between Steam and DA that no one can really fix except for time. Just waiting for Steam to do whatever updates they're doing on the back end that won't let it connect for whatever reason within DA. Oh, nice, Gore. What I think I'm gonna do is put like an overhang type thing. We could do that one looked weird. Let's try this one. Yeah, that looks awkward. I know how I can rescale it to make it look better. One moment. We need a freestanding wall. Freestanding walls are basically every single wall type is available as a freestanding wall, which means you can put it anywhere at any height, you can rotate it, and one major benefit of freestanding walls is they can be oversized. So I'm going to mount this overhang. Thought I would. For some reason, I thought this would snap onto that, but might not work in this instance. Hold on. Let me try something. Darn it. I was really hoping to snap it onto something. It only snaps to the ground, it would appear, which is not what we want here. So if it snaps to the wall, you can oversize the wall and fix it, so that won't work in this instance. Bummer. Try a tent one. Good question. We should probably decide on that as a community. So now that we finished this build, it would be nice to move on to a new build. I mean, we usually kind of pick when we're starting the stream and a bunch of people are here, but we could also kind of talk about it now and come up with some ideas. Opening for me. Weird. Maybe try restarting your internet. So aside from the minor adjustment to the tower, which I'm not even sure I want to change, I kind of like it, if I'm being honest. I can even scale this up just a little bit bigger. I think it looks pretty good. Then it has a lot of movement. It was just a temporary Steam hiccup, most likely. Nothing you did, my friend. Alrighty, I'm gonna save this. And we'll sit here and we'll discuss what potential new build we'll do for the next Mapmaker Monday. So the skyboxes are imperfect, Eduardo. The light tools do move with like light, but the sun and the moon don't move with it, unfortunately. As far as I'm aware. Maybe the sun might, but I don't think the actual sun itself does. Here, let's look. Like the light itself, the source where it's casting from, so it's kind of more like a Truman Show light. So I'm looking right at the light right now, right? Let's go into the light. Let's rotate it. That should move the sun by this logic, right? Oh, it did move it. Wow, never mind. I was wrong. The moon doesn't move then. Weird. I was not aware of that. I thought they were both static. Learn something new every day. But I do think improvements to the skyboxes will come with time. Remember one thing always when you're like, why isn't this in here yet? Dungeon Alchemist is in early access, so a lot of things that feel like they're not finished or not fully done or like lacking is because of that. There are a lot of aspects of Dungeon Alchemist that feel beyond complete. In fact, that's part of the reason people say that often. Why isn't this standard feature in your Mapmaker? It's because we're not done yet. We still have 5 major updates on our roadmap as part of our Kickstarter stretch goals to deliver on. The next one being fun with objects. Yeah, the moon does not change position as far as I'm aware, but the sun does. I'll bring that up with the devs and ask them if that's something they can change. If even just rotating the skybox to match the position would be ideal. You know what I mean? In fact, let me grab my notebook. Oh gosh. Bunch of cat fur on my notebook. My cat was asleep. I personally would love more skyboxes and a custom skybox option. Kind of like the abstract objects, abstract skybox, so you can import your own. Okay, sun moves, but moon does not. I'm going to bring that up with the devs next time I have a meeting with them. Sound good? I honestly was not aware that the sun even moved. I thought it was just a fixed skybox, and the only thing that moved was the light, like a beacon around. So I was a little bit incorrect there, and I apologize for the wrong information. So glad we figured that out. I do know that our lead artist, the Moon Skybox, that was his first time making a Moon Skybox or like any type of skybox really. So I think with time we'll get more and more options as that expands and they get better and more confident with it. Have you seen the skyboxes on the workshop though? While we're talking about this, I should tell everyone. There are some amazing skyboxes that were shared, not scared, by Dallas RT, who is one of our moderators, Asmodeus. I thought there was 3 or 4 Asmodeus. Why am I only seeing 2? Do you have them under different names? But these are really cool for several reasons. Let me show you. Inquisitor. Hey. Quentin, dude, how are you doing? Wow. That's cool. Good to know. Can you DM me really quick on Discord? Just to confirm, and then I'll give you mod stats here on Twitch. Thank you. Perfect. Thank you. Sorry, I can't be too cautious. You know what I mean? Let's see. I am really glad you're here, though. Okay, just gave you a mod. If you refresh, you should see a sword next to your name there. So, back to the Skybox. This thing here is a big dome, right? This dome, if you place it kind of centrally on your map, which it's probably best to do this in a top-down kind of perspective, because you could see where the center of your map is. The reason I say to do this, to get it near the center, oh goodness, is because it's easier to encapsulate your entire map of the circle from its center point. Now, I'm going to take this dome, and I'm just going to expand it far beyond the map edge there, right? And this is really just to set up scenic shots from first person. You won't be able to see this in a top-down, so it's kind of pointless in that regard. But if you want to have some nice, really brilliant scenic shots from inside where there is a skybox finally that is reasonable, like this looks amazing. You can't tell me that doesn't look good. You know what, Quinn? That let's chat about that actually. I would love to figure out when you're free, and we could try and get you in on like a Saturday or a Wednesday stream. If you have one of those days that you could squeeze in a time. I'm definitely not gatekeeping the devs and like artists from our community. I think just the last 6 months has been an absolute roller coaster where there really hasn't been a lot of time to do so. You know what I mean? So Wednesdays are our office hours streams, and we go from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. Pacific Standard. That would be 7 p.m. CET, I think, to 9 p.m. CET. Do you think is that something you could manage? I love it though. I think the skybox looks great. But it's a great way to just kind of give some nice scenic shots of your map from a different perspective. I'll ping you after this stream ends, and we'll hammer out the details, my friend. Quinn seems to be the one person who's up with the most overlay with my schedule. I'll get random messages from Quinn when I assume everyone in Belgium is dead asleep. Are you also in Belgium, Quinn, or are you somewhere else? Quentin never sleeps. I feel like we're two sides of the same coin. Let's check this out from inside. Let's make it night, okay? Let's put a night skybox. Bit of a night owl. See, I feel you. Like I don't need that much sleep. I only like sleep like 3-4 hours a night most nights, and then I'm like fully rested. My wife hates it. I'm like up early in the morning and get some private time to do some tasks, work out, walk the dog. I do my hobbies in the morning, like 3D printing or crafts or reading. And then at night, in the after work in the evening, I hang out with my family. And then late nights, if I'm up, it's usually video games or like work. I'm way busy. But I work like a solid. Oh no! Where did the desk go? No! What happened to it? It's okay. It wasn't that decorated. We could rebuild it. We have the technology. I think when I move that wall here with that switch. I don't know. If Wim and Carl are night owls, they're not very public about it. Let's just say that. Why is the bed gone? Oh my gosh, everything disappeared. The junk. Okay, that's okay. So the bed and the bed and the desk. Weird. So for those that aren't aware, Quinn is one of our developers on Dungeon Alchemist. He knows quite a bit about Dungeon Alchemist, its inner workings, if you will. Quinn is incredibly helpful anytime I need assistance with, like, asking really technical questions about DA. I can always pick his brain. And Quinn has developed some really cool core features that many of you use all the time. Quinn, if I'm not mistaken, right, you developed the tracing feature for DA, right? So, like, first off, Quinn, pat yourself on the back. I love the tracing feature. It's amazing. And I honestly, like, I hope in the future we take time to expand some of the elements available, like different, overlay options, labels, frames, etc. And then even like, because it's so amazing right now, and it's like, oh gosh, I love tracing donjon maps. Have you linked up a donjon map and done it? It's like so easy. I'm sure you have, but it's just like, I love how perfect it works with our stuff. Yeah, that's like, I hope someday, I don't know if you have any insight on this, do they plan to expand to add more like labels and compasses and borders? Nice. I actually reached out to Don John, right, after you guys were developing it, and I got Don John to add the map square sizes to his file names and like his little export information. So they now are really easy. You just look at it and go, oh, it's 51 by 42. Okay, open a DA map that's 51 by 42 or 102 by 84, double it, and it works as well. I just think it's so awesome to do that. You can make different ones oh, you can't make labels transparent. You can only do it with the overlay layer. It would be nice adding a transparency or a hide option to different ones. That would be cool. Or even in the export menu, an option to hide overlays on export, like a toggle overlay. Little toggle there. So they're all on or all off. Man, it's so cool to talk to a dev who made this stuff, though, because you can, like, kind of pick their brain and get insight to the track of, like, how it was developed and possibly discover if new things are on the way. One thing I would love to see with trace overlays is the option to scale on any axis, not just universal scaling. So I could pull this way from the left side or the right side, because sometimes a map you find online isn't going to perfectly match up with DA. And so you just try to get an approximation, and it's really hard to do that if you can't scale, from one side or the other, and you only have universal scaling. I do like the transparency option. Like, if we could add that to every label and element, people could at least hide it in the interim. The problem with the objects, I don't foresee the devs ever doing it, really. I mean, if they do, it would be when they come up with some novel solution for how they look when they're stretched out. Because part of the reason they won't do it is they don't like the way they look when they're stretched, the artistic look. And they have that, that decision is kind of theirs as the artists, the creators of Dungeon Alchemist, that they don't want it to look bad, right? I mean, I think that's reasonable. They really just want it to be. Quentin's like, see you guys, we're never coming back. It's okay, Quentin, we can make it work for a Saturday or maybe even a Monday if we had to. Exactly. Quentin being here, he's just a guest today. I was just kind of picking his brain randomly because he was here. In fact, if Quentin doesn't want to answer any more questions, he can refrain and we can move on. In fact, the stream's going to be wrapping up here in about 5 minutes anyway, so really we're kind of done for the day. But ultimately, office hours is definitely the day to pick the myself's brain or the dev's brain when they're available on those streams, because that's when you're most likely to get this most stuff answered and have the most one-on-one time with them, because we're just chilling in Discord. Problem is, office hours is on Wednesday, and you just said you're busy on Wednesday, so Wednesday evenings would be around 7 p.m. your time, 8 p.m. your time. We don't have to start, you don't have to join us right when we start. You could join a little late, right? For instance, if that might work for you. But Saturdays, we could set aside a block to just do questions and hang out. Because I wouldn't mind doing that at all on a damn stream. Like, having a guest dev and whatever wouldn't bother me in the least. And I don't think the community would mind at all either. Oh, sorry. I honestly just took you in all earnest because I thought you just were checking your schedule. Yeah, we did. We did it with a damn challenge, and Aiko picked the winner. It was pretty cool. She, however, was not very keen on it. She felt kind of anxious about picking the winner. She felt bad having to pick only one, and I was like, welcome to my life. Every 2 weeks, I have to pick one winner. Because there's so many amazing maps that are top-notch builds, and everyone's bringing their A game to these competitions. And Aiko was like, there's so many I like. I'm like, you gotta just pick one, unfortunately. If you were on a desert island and you could only pick one map to play tabletop gaming with for the next 5 years, what would it be? That's usually what I ask myself. Oh my goodness. So Quinn, can I ask you one last question? I hope you don't mind me picking your brain related to development. Okay, Quentin, so what was your favorite thing to work on in the Magic update? I know there was a lot of different, moving pieces, different aspects of the Magic update being worked on. And it was quite a lengthy development period. And I'm just curious, over that development period of time, was there an aspect of the development, a key feature or quality of life or improvement or something you worked on that you were really proud of or enjoyed?
Excuse me. Throat's a little rough at the. We'll just wait for Quinn to answer. While we're waiting, let's hurry and fix up some of these aspects of this build. We'll make it daytime, so it's just a little bit easier to see. That to the side. We'll put a desk in here. One of these round desks. What I did was I went through and tabbed it until it was like covered in scrolls. That one. Noticing the ladder is on that side though. Shrink this down. Oh, the advanced brush options are really cool. They're pretty fun. Like, I'm not gonna lie, it's a nice... Oh, the autosave is long gone. It's long been overwritten, unfortunately. My interval's too short, and I only need to make 2 adjustments, so it's not the end of the world. That. Darn it! I'm so mad about that. This one wall became detached from this piece, and I don't know when it happened. Let me see if I can fix it. Problem is, this is on its own height. I needed to attach it when it was like not. So we're gonna go into structural, around, find this like raised up for some reason there. Oh, there we go. Mac saves the day. Okay. Next, we just got to put that bed back. That wizard bed is so large, and I think part of the problem is it clips through into the next floor. And it has some overlap with other objects, but I really, really want to use this in this build. So I'll just shrink it down. Bucket it back here. But honestly, it really depends on what you're doing, but my problem is, Quinn, I sit here and talk to the viewers a lot in between my builds. I don't just consistently build, right? And if I was consistently building, it would make more sense with, like, the autosaves work perfectly for users who are constantly building, but someone who stopgaps and constantly answers questions and, you know, shows off concepts and just chats and shoots the shit with the crowd, eventually I'm gonna sit there for a minute or two talking and my autosave will overwrite when I didn't want it to. And it's just the unfortunate nature of being someone talking while they're building, which isn't very common for most builders in our community, I'd wager. So I say realistically, there's probably a good amount of slots. I'm the outlier here, and I asked the devs to add a 1 minute strictly for that because of power users. I think 1 minute is risky too, because sometimes you could have something overwrite and you didn't want it to. Like maybe DA crashed, right? And you want to open DA to a previous state, and then the only thing there was an autosave that didn't have your work done. You know, so sometimes there may be instances where it doesn't. It's just like, it's a failsafe. There's not going to be a perfection, like a perfect interval, right? A personal interval would be nice where you could set a custom one. Seisu wants a 1 week interval, that really risky interval. So 2 autosaves too, so you kind of have more like backups. One thing I don't like, and I do like at the same time, and I understand why this was the choice, was autosaves delete the previous autosave instead of just stacking. That would remove my problem, is if all the autosaves were just there with a timestamp instead of overwriting each other. Then there would just be one like 5 minutes ago I could go back to, right? The problem is, if you're building for hours, you'd have hundreds of autosaves. So maybe we could set like a limit to how many autosaves it could create, like 10 to 20 per build or something. You know, so you could set it, oh, I want it to set an infinite amount of autosaves, or I only want 20 before it starts overriding or deleting the oldest one. Those are just some minor suggestions, but that's really, really outlier stuff. It really is not that important because it's me as a user, not the community. Honestly, most of my suggestions, like I added to our internal like Trello, were community stuff because I really want to see like these things added. They're heavy suggestions. Yeah, most games that do have autosave slots do have a limit of like 10 to 20 slots. So they'll overwrite the bottom ones, but it would be nice to have more than one. So I can kind of like go back a few steps. The autosave though is amazing. I absolutely love it. Seriously, Quinn, like autosave, the brush tools, like all the stuff, the little minor, like little things that I'm sure often get overlooked because maybe not everyone uses them or notices them if they're a new user, or maybe they don't use all these advanced things. These advanced things are really awesome for power users like myself who want all of this detail and articulation. Yeah. It would be awesome too if DAA had a reminder, like a little pop-up that said, hey, you haven't saved yet. Would you like to make a save? Because that's like the first save is the most risky save, and a lot of people forget. You know what I mean? They haven't set that first one where they set a name. Or even just like naming the map in the beginning so it creates a save when you generate the map is like probably the smart way. Like when you're going here and you set all the parameters, just put the name of the map right there. So we name it, and then it creates it and makes a save automatically. Cuts out that problem immediately. Another thing I would like to see too is a save icon when it's saving, like a little, like a floppy disk or something. Show like when it's auto saving, I know it is, so I don't accidentally quit. Or when I'm saving with like a Control S, I know it's saving. Just like visual feedback, but that's like, you know, stuff that I'm used to from other games or applications. So I feel like, you know, oh, I just want it. Right now, we're just like begging Quinn for stuff. But just kind of consider that stuff, Quinn. You really don't need to make any of these adjustments if you don't feel inclined. I'm so mad I couldn't make that meeting the other day. It was at 5 in the morning, and I'd worked late the night before, so I was just too dead. Couldn't make it. But, like, oh, our team just had a meeting to, like, discuss the next update in detail, and I'm sure it was juicy. Oh, for sure, I understand that entirely. But there is also that fine balance between like trying to, you know, meet community like needs and desires mixed with like, you know, kind of modernizing DA and making sure it stays ahead of the curve, and always meeting and delivering on the promises from our Kickstarter. It's a fine balance, you know what I mean? I agree entirely that like sometimes things just aren't viable. They can't be done. Sometimes things we want to do and just can't right now, you know? They just have to be at a certain point in time. Okay, I'm gonna save it, and I think we have the build pretty much finalized. Oh, Gore, you make me laugh. We get requests like that all the time. Me as the community manager, I sometimes feel like I'm like the punching bag for all of these suggestions and feedback, and some of it not always nice feedback. And so I kind of like sift through mountains and mountains of suggestions and comments and across all our different platforms, and make sure that that feedback is getting delivered to our devs. No, not at all, Seisu. In fact, not at all. But just given the sheer scope, sometimes it does feel like I am like just getting raked over the coals some days, but it's mostly because it's a lot of different people in it's a lot of outliers in a lot of different places. Does that make sense? Nick, thank you for the follow. Much appreciated. Exactly. I am the contact point. I took this on as my role. I know what I'm doing and what I, as the community manager, and I fully expect this. Like, and you need to have kind of a thick skin to be in a front-facing role like this. Because, like, or even as a streamer in general, a content creator, because people will troll you, they'll rasp on you, or you are the person they can talk to when they have a problem. So if they're having a problem and they're angry or upset, you're that point of ventilation, you know what I mean? So I understand that entirely, and I deal with it all the time. I have no problem with it. It is just, it's kind of like, it is pretty constant, you know what I mean? It's, to say it doesn't happen is, it doesn't happen here on Twitch. Everyone here is really nice. Yeah, I get it, Gore. Exactly. But like recently we pulled the community and I put together a massive list of like community suggestions, feedback for what everyone thought would be in the Fun with Objects update. And then I weighted those suggestions based on how many times they were brought up or how many times they were like upvoted or retweeted, liked, etc. And so like it was a lot of data to compile. And many of the suggestions that we got weren't really relevant to that update or would be for something else entirely, like a different update down the road. So a lot of my job is like filtering through this content to see what's actually useful information, and then also putting it into like a phrase or a statement that is something the devs will see at a glance, understand, and be able to like fully grasp what the community member is asking and wanting. So I kind of act like a translator or a mouthpiece between the two. You know what I mean? Like a go-between. It's interesting, to say the least. Because community members are constantly making requests, have, needs for support, feedback. And then if I'm noticing like a new bug or a bunch of people reporting a bug, then I'll like gather all that data and report it to the devs. And the devs are like, oh, can you get all this information? We'll get it all together. And the devs finally tune in and they're like, oh yeah, let's see how we can figure this out. Then they put out a hot fix. And it's like a really cool reactive process, how it all kind of fits together, Anyway, I enjoy it. I like it a lot. Or alternatively, the devs need information from you and they ask me, and then I put something together for the community. And it's great either way. Really enjoy it. Anyway, let's wrap up the stream. We're about 10 past, well, about 15 past at this point, so we've gone a little long. So thank you for hanging out, everyone, for being here with us during the stream today. Had a lot of fun hanging out with you on Mapmaker Monday, and it was great wrapping up this build. Ultimately, I think it's pretty much done. I'm going to ask Mrs. Mac to make some subtle adjustments to the roof if possible, and then we'll put that on and then I'll upload it. But overall, this map is good to go. Next Monday, we'll be picking out a theme on the stream, so everyone kind of be thinking during the week what you might want our next map-making theme to be. Maybe there's something you want to see me make in real time, or you've been kind of wanting to learn how to build something, but you're not sure how. Great time to suggest it would be sometime in the next week. Let me know what you think should be on the next Mapmaker Monday or the next upcoming Mapmaker Monday streams. Again, thank you for hanging out, everyone. My name is Mac. I'm the community manager for Dungeon Alchemist. Dungeon Alchemist is a map-making utility that is available on Steam. Helps you make maps for your tabletop games in a moment. You can make maps in a snap, or you can roll up your sleeves like I have here and build intricate multi-level maps by hand with every detail you can dream of. Dungeon Alchemist is actually 20% off right now, so it's a great deal. Through the 11th, you can take advantage of that deal. If you own it already, or maybe your DM was looking to get a new map making tool, you could suggest it to them or maybe gift them a copy. So that's a great gift for a DM. Especially any aspiring DM would love to get a tool like Dungeon Alchemist, or any map making tool for that matter. So I appreciate anyone who's here today. Thank you for participating. The next stream is office hours this Wednesday. If you're interested in participating, that takes place in our Discord. It doesn't happen on any of these external platforms. It's the Discord exclusive stream of the week. Happens every Wednesday at 10 a.m. Pacific. That is 1 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. CET. If you're interested in participating, that stream is a great place to hang out, get to meet, and get to know other people in our community, learn tips and tricks for map making, share feedback and suggestions, get to know the devs, and ask them questions. It's a great place to just hang out in general and just vibe and get to know the future of Dungeon Alchemist and understand it better. Anyway, thank you everyone for being here. We'll see you next time I give a damn. Mac out. Bye. Bye.